Policy research is most valuable when it applies information and analysis to cause good ideas to replace bad ones. And the opportunities for productive inputs through policy research are greatest where there are a lot of bad ideas around. And agricultural trade policy 40 years ago was one of these areas. Our brother and sister organisations in the CGIAR based on the biological sciences often tend to work on a presumption that national self-sufficiency in food is somehow equated with food security, and this idea is quite important in the agricultural ministries of many countries. The work of IFPRI has helped to dispel that idea over the last 40 years. I just mentioned 3 areas in which free and open trade can be important to food security and raising rural incomes. Free and open trade allows any growing levels of demand for food to be met at lowest cost and therefore make them more likely to be met. Secondly, food markets, food prices are likely to be less stable if there is trade across a lot of countries, and this is more and more important as climate change introduces the risks of large shocks in particular regions. If those shocks can be absorbed through a global market in food, they will have less damaging impact. And thirdly, an area that's been very important in IFPRI, the earlier work of Mark Rosegrant, continued by Maximo and his division, relates to rural incomes being increased through trade in high-value products further along the production chain, horticultural products and processed foodstuffs. There's been pluses and minuses in IFPRI's influence on global policy. We saw in Maximo's presentation that average levels of negative and positive assistance are lower than they were. That's a plus. The Uruguay round was a success. IFPRI contributed to that. The Doha round, in the shaping of which IFPRI was influential, has not yet been a success. There's also been retrogression recently through development of preferential trade arrangements, which tend to fragment the world economy, and the idea has developed that export restrictions are more acceptable outside preferential areas than inside them, and that could be damaging to food security in the longer term. The history of the last 40 years teaches us 2 things. One, IFPRI's work on food and trade policy is very important and has been productive and influential. Secondly, IFPRI's work in this area is not yet done.